Hello, buddy. All right, sorry I'm a little late here. Something came up at the absolute last minute I had to tend to. So, anyways, so we're going to may need to go off camera for another quick moment here before we get going here. I'm gonna probably will get right into it since I did get started a little late here. So, but I'm gonna go off camera here real quick to go take care of some holy finish, and when I come back, I'll talk about we'll probably get right into what we're gonna talk about tonight, which is the history of Deke Entertainment. Um, so with that, I'm gonna put some music on for a moment, go take care of some stuff, and then I will be right back. All right. Anyways, thanks for being patient, guys. All right. So now, hopefully, what a little issue was now been resolved. So hopefully now I can go ahead and focus on the show here. Um, Friendly reminder, of course, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, so tonight we're going to continue our little look down and talk about the histories of some well-known animation studios. Tonight we're going to be focusing in on Deke Entertainment. Of course, that's the company that gave us such classics as Inspector Gadget, um, Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, not to be confused with The Mask, the animated series in the 90s, even though I think they might have done that one as well. The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, Camp Candy. There are a few that were done on the syndicated. Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. So just a number of different stuff that we would see, and a lot of it in syndication, some of it on network TV. So we'll talk about Deke's history, and then we will also go ahead. After that, we'll get all caught up on all the latest in the world of professional wrestling. Look back to last night's Dynamite. Look ahead to tonight's look ahead to tonight's Impact and Ring of Honor shows, and then we will and of course we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. Anyways, I'm gonna go off camera. Sorry, got to go off camera one last time here. Deal with a different issue here, but I'll be right back. All right, anyways, with all that being said and done, let's go ahead and get started here. Sorry about the delays, but sometimes things happen. You know how that all goes. All right, so let's get into our feature presentation here of the night. Alrighty then. Okay, so first off, let's get the basics out of the way. Deke Entertainment Corporation. Of course, there's the logo of 1987-2008 right there on the far right. This is where the former DIC headquarters in Burbank, California. Formerly Deke Audiovisual, 1971-87, the French studio. Deke Enterprise Incorporated, 82-93, the U.S. studio. DIC Animation City Incorporated, 85 to 93. Deke Entertainment LP, 93 to 2002. Deke Productions LP, 1994 to 2001. Company type public, traded as LSE DEKEQL. Animation and industry. Founded 55 years ago in 1971. Founded by John Chalopon, I believe. Went defunct in July 23rd, 2018, 17 years ago. Acquired by and folded into Cookie Jar Group. Chester, of course, Cookie Jar Group on the American side, and then Creative at Developmente. Headquarters, Burbank, California. Former headquarters, Paris, France. Key people: Andy Haywood, Chairman and CEO. Products: children's television. The parent company included Company Luxembourgeois de Télédiffusion, 1971-1986. Capital Cities, ABC Video Enterprises, 1993-95, limited partnership. Walt Disney, 1995-2000, limited partnership. Divisions: Deke Consumer Products, Deke Home Entertainment, Deke Toontime Audio. Subsidiaries: Copyright Promotions, Licensing Group, Deke Entertainment Europe, Deke Entertainment Holding Incorporated, Deke Entertainment and Deke Productions LP each. The website was deekentertainment.com. I don't believe that. But anyways, so that's all the basics out of the way. So let's get into getting into the meat of the content here. So DEEK Entertainment Corporation, also known as DEEK Audiovisual, DEEK Enterprises, DEEK Animation City, DEEK Entertainment LP, and DEEK Productions, sometimes stylized capital D, small I, capital C, was a French-American film and television production company that was mostly associated as an animation studio as the former division of the Walt Disney Company, DEEK, produced live-action feature films and licensed numerous anime series. Yeah, they did, like, for example, the Sailor Moon series, I believe, at one, the first Sailor Moon series. Well, they did they were the ones who were the first involved in the Sailor Moon dub series. It was done in the 90s there. It was done out of Toronto before, long before Viz Media did it in the late in 2015, 2014, 2015. In 2008, DEEK was acquired by Cookie Jar Group in June and was later folded into Cookie Jar in July. As of 2025, most of the DEEK library is currently owned by Wildbrain, formerly DHX Media, after the company acquired Cookie Jar in October 2012. All right, so with that out of that portion of the way, let's now get into the history of how DEEK would evolve over time. Alrighty then. So, 1971 to 1982, DEEK Audiovisual. Diffusion Information Communication, DEEK, as we know it, was founded in France in 1971 by John Chalopin as part of Compagnie Luxembourgeoise de Télévision, now RTL Group, a well-established media company. DEEK primarily focused on producing television content. In 1981, DEEK formed a partnership with Tokyo Movie Shinsha TMS Entertainment over in Japan, a Japanese animation studio. As part of this collaboration, DEEK assisted in animating several TMS programs, including the popular series Ulysses 31. Additionally, DEEK created an unaired pilot called Lupin the Eighth during this period. This partnership between DEEK and TMS continued until 1996, contributing to the production of numerous animated television shows and pilots. All right, so continue on here. 1982 to 1986, DEEK Enterprises. DEEK Audiovisual's U.S. division, DEEK Enterprises, was established in April of 1982, Burbank, California, by Andy Hayward, a former writer at Hanna-Barbera. Another company that kind of had somewhat of a link to Hanna-Barbera right there. The division was created to adapt DEEK Productions' into English for American audiences. DiC Enterprises focused on producing animated television content for both network broadcast and syndication. So basically, you could say, throughout much of the from the mid '80s through mid '90s, DiC was all over the place. You could find some shows of DiC on Saturday mornings, maybe even Sunday mornings. You could probably find some shows of DiC during the week. Obviously the ones during the week, and some of them ended up on Sunday were probably the syndicated ones, while the Saturday morning ones, of course, some of them, like Camp Candy, for example, showed up on the network. So we'll probably look at all that in a bit here. Look at some of the properties that they were involved in. Let's see. To reduce costs, DiC outsourced non-creative tasks overseas and employed staff on a per-program basis. Despite its success, some industry insiders referred to DiC as "do it cheap." All right. Under the direction of Bruno Bianchi and Bernard Guerrier, um, DiC became known for its effective yet cost-conscious approach to animation production. Shortly after its formation, DiC introduced Inspector Gadget, which became one of its most successful productions. Inspector Gadget, of course, with they even got Don Adams, comedian Don Adams from Get Smart fame, as well as being the previous voice of Tuxedo or Tennessee Tuxedo in the '60s there. DiC also collaborated with toy and greeting card companies to develop character-based product lines that could be adapted into anime series, providing built-in advertising and financial backers, which was probably important in the '80s, because the '70s and '80s is kind of the years and into the '90s where they were starting to crack down on shows being like just one huge commercial. They were like really looking to put a stop to that, a lot of the American government here, which of course eventually led to the Children's Television Act of 1993. With hits like Inspector Gadget, The Littles, and Heathcliff, DiC became profitable. In 1983, DiC established its own animation facility in Japan, known as KK DiC Asia, to handle animation production for its shows independently. Despite facing a unionization effort in 1984, DiC remained the only non-union animation firm. Over time, DiC expanded its operations through syndication deals with companies like LBS Communications. You'd probably see, if you've ever watched a DiC production, you probably would see LBS Communicate, particularly those in the late '80s. LBS was in big letters, on a lot of the credits there. Columbia Pictures Television and Access Syndication. Additionally, DiC secured home video rights for its shows through agreements with Carl Lorimar Home Video, CBS Fox Video in the U.S., the Video Collection in Great Britain, and Access Syndication. Hmm. 1987 to 1993, the move to North America. So between late 1986 and 1987, Hayward, in collaboration with investors Bearsteins and Company, and Prudential Insurance Company, acquired Chalopin and Campagne Luxembourgeois de Télédiffusion's 52% stake in DEEC, resulting in the transformation of DEEC into DEEC Animation City Incorporated. This acquisition, amounting to $70 million in a leveraged buyout, relocated the company's headquarters to the United States. Following the transaction, key personnel such as Chalopan, Bianchi, Derriere, and producer Tetsuo Katayama departed DEEC, making way for Robbie London and Michael Maliani to assume pivotal roles in the organization. Of course, Robbie London, I'm sure if you guys do remember the credits, that's another name that should kind of spark some memories there. Pivotal. Additionally, Chalopin retained control of DEEC's original offices in France and its Japanese animation facility, establishing the entity Créativité et Development C&D in 1987 to continue producing animated content. Meanwhile, the Japanese studio was renamed KKC&D Asia, operating until 1996. So before I continue on here, I do need to go off camera one more time here. Sorry about this, everybody. I'll be right back. Put some music on while I'm on here. All right, I'm back. So let's get back to the content at hand. Let's see, continue on from where we were. Let's see, subsequent to the buyout, DEEC encountered significant financial indebtedness, partly stemming from the competitive strategy of underbidding on projects to outmaneuver rival animation firms, coupled with an overestimation of the market demand for children's television shows. Consequently, DEEC's debt escalated, prompting the sale of foreign rights to their library to Saban Productions in 1987. Saban basically became a powerful entity late 80s. We may look at them next, when we have some time. Which was later transferred to Chalopin C&D. This transaction strained the relationship between DEEC and Saban, leading to legal disputes, culminating in a settlement in 1991. Despite these challenges, DEEC expanded its collaborations, partnering with NBC and Coca-Cola Telecommunications to produce and distribute television programs. Deke also ventured into toy manufacturing with the introduction of the Old MacDonald talking toy line. Amidst legal battles and strategic maneuvers, Deke continued to navigate the evolving landscape of the animation industry. Legal disputes with Family Home Entertainment, which in particularly in the 90s, there was one of the leading home video distributors, and LBS Lorimar Home Video were resolved, paving the way for Deke to forge partnerships with Golden Book Video and pursue distribution agreements with Bobot Communications. Furthermore, Deke diversified its international collaborations, teaming up with Retetti Alia, SPA, and Telecinco, among others, to co-produce animated content. By the early 90s, Deke expanded its operations to include subsidiaries such as Rainforest Entertainment, and embarked on educational initiatives. Yeah, early 90s, again, 1993 was around the time that the U.S. Congress passed the Children's Television Act, which pretty much changed Saturday mornings altogether, may have led to the eventual demise of the Saturday morning cartoons, as now stations were actually now required to provide a certain amount of hours of programming per week to educational programming. Deke's growth trajectory was marked by a landmark licensing agreement with Buena Vista Home Video in 1993, facilitating the distribution of over 1,000 half hours, so that must mean 500 hours, of animated content, and the establishment of a dedicated home video label. The deal bolstered Deke's presence in the home entertainment market, heralding a new phase of expansion, consolidation within the animation industry. Deke subsequently signed a deal with Golden Book Video to market titles under the Deke Video brand. (1993 to 2000) limited partnerships. During the early 90s, Deke attracted attention within the industry. The company engaged in discussions regarding a potential merger and buyout with Polygram and Capital Cities ABC, but no agreements materialized with either entity. In July 1993, so basically around, like 6 months after I had pretty much graduated high school, Deke Animation City began the establishment of a limited partnership with Capital Cities ABC Video Enterprises Incorporated, forming a joint venture named Deke Entertainment LP. This venture aimed to oversee Deke's production library and supply content for international distribution through Cave. Deke Animation City held 95% of the shares, while Cave held the remaining 5%. At the end of the year, the two companies formed another Delaware limited partnership called Deke Productions LP, with Capital Cities ABC holding 95% majority stake and Haywood retaining the remaining 5%. Both limited partnerships became the successor to the parent company Deke Animation City, coinciding with the relocation of Deke's headquarters to a larger facility in Burbank, California. Deke continued its expansion and diversification efforts throughout the early 90s. In November 1993, it established Deke Interactive, a multimedia unit. Subsequently, the company ventured into live action television production in response to the success of Saban's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Deke collaborated with Suburaya Productions to adapt the Japanese series Gridman the Hyper Agent into Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Deke also initiated partnerships in China and engaged syndication agreements with Seagull Entertainment. In 1995, Deke also produced the English dub of the Japanese anime Sailor Moon. That was the one that was heavily panned because they bowderized it. They basically did to Sailor Moon kind of what they did to Gatchaman with Battle of the Planets. They really edited out because of the fact they were making it more for kids. They cut out a lot of the more mature and or darker aspects of depictions of death were toned down quite a bit in that Sailor Moon series. Of course, that was also the dub that was done up in Toronto, with Tracy Moore doing like the first 14 episodes of the voice of Sailor Moon, then Terry Hawks taking over after that. Had other pretty well-known Canadian actors from that area, like Reno Romano, Katie Griffin, who would, of course, go on to be part of the Totally Spies TV show or cartoon. Susan Roman, Stephanie Morgan, Karen Bernstein. So, Naz Edwards, Jill Frappier, Ron Rubin, who was, of course, in the X-Men cartoon. Well, Susan Roman also got a spot in the X-Men cartoons Callisto, leader of the Morlocks, the 92 version of X-Men. So, anyways, moving on here. In July 1995, the Walt Disney Company intended to buy Capital Cities ABC and all of its assets, including Deke. That October, Deke began planning to establish an animation studio in France in partnership with Hamster Productions. Following the completion of the merger between Capital Cities ABC and Disney, in January 1996, Deke became a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company. Subsequently, Deke collaborated closely with Disney, launching Deke Films and signing a first look deal with Walt Disney Pictures in 1996. In March 1997, Deke's French animation studio commenced operations as Le Studio Tex SARL. Deke continued its expansion into various markets and mediums, extending its first look deal with Walt Disney Pictures in March 1998 and commencing their launch of its direct-to-video division the following month. Additionally, DiC secured a programming agreement with PAX TV during this period. Of course, PAX TV would eventually, fall by the wayside. But anyways, as we move on here, 2004 return to independence. In September 2000, Andy Hayward, backed by investment firms Bain Capital and Chase Capital Partners, began to purchase DiC from the Walt Disney Company. Disney agreed to sell back the company, and the deal was closed on November 25th, officially allowing DiC to produce shows alone again without the limitations of Disney, coinciding with the relaunch of DiC's international sales division at MIPCOM that year. In 2001, DiC planned to return to the home video market by forming a new division titled DiC Home Entertainment. They intended to begin releasing products starting that May. This was delayed due to DiC's issues in finding a distribution partner, which eventually happened in July when DiC signed a deal with Lionsgate Home Entertainment for North American distribution of DiC home entertainment products. In June, DiC planned a purchase of Golden Books Family Entertainment for $170 million, but they eventually backed out of the deal due to the high cost of the purchase. The company was instead co-purchased by Random House for the book rights and Classic Media for the entertainment rights. So Random House would be in charge of publishing the books. Classic Media would be in charge, I guess, of producing the shows. Guessing that's how that was going to work. But if you guys know something different, feel free to comment. In July 2002, DiC purchased the Mommy and Me preschool label. In January, and Mommy and Me, actually, I believe that actually became a programming block on one of the stations, I believe. But anyway, in January 2003, DiC announced 3 syndicated children's programming EI blocks called DiC Kids Network. In April, DiC sued Speed Racer Enterprises, alleging that SRE had sublicensed the worldwide exploitation rights for Speed Racer to DiC the previous year, and then ended the agreement without DIC knowing. Later in July, DiC signed a television production deal with PAL Entertainment for Stan Lee's Secret Super 6, a series about teens with alien superpowers who are taught about humanity by Lee. But this show never made it to air. 2004 to 2008, going public and final years. In 2004, Hayward acquired Bain Capital's share in DiC Entertainment and subsequently oversaw the company's public offering on the London Stock Exchange's alternative investment market in 2005, trading under the symbol DICQL. In March 2006, DiC regained international rights to 20 of its shows from the Walt Disney Company and Jetix Europe, previously owned by Disney, since their acquisition of of Saban Entertainment. In 2001, the same month, Deke acquired the Copyright Promotions Licensing Group and welcomed Jeffrey Edel as president and CEO, chief operating officer. And I do need to go off camera here for another quick moment, so I'll be right back. But I'll put some music on while I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right, so we're back now. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. Deke, AOL's Cole, and CBS Corporation joined forces. It is a new 3-hour programming block for Saturday mornings on CBS called Cole Secret Slumber Party on September 15, 2006. A year later, on the same date, Deke, CBS, and American Greetings launched another programming block named Coolopolis. In April 2007, Deke Entertainment, Nelvana, and NBC Universal Global Networks announced the establishment of KidsCo, an international children's entertainment network. That October, Deke filed a lawsuit against the Dam Company, alleging fraud and negligent misrepresentation regarding Dam's Troll Doll and Deek's Trolls television series, which was created under a license from Dam. Dam countersued Deek, accusing the company of misrepresenting its financial status and harming the Troll Doll's image and reputation, and harming the Troll Dolls. 2008-2012 Cookie Jar Group and merger, Cookie Jar Group merger, and DHX Media. All right, so in June 2008, Deke Entertainment and Canadian media company Cookie Jar Group announced a merger valued at $87.6 million. President Jeffrey Adele played a key role in finalizing the deal, which was completed on July 23rd of the same year. Following the merger, Deke became a subsidiary of Cookie Jar, and the company was subsequently folded into Cookie Jar's operations. In August 2009, Deke Entertainment Corporation was rebranded as Cookie Jar Entertainment USA Incorporated. In 2012, Cookie Jar was acquired by DHX Media. The Deke Kids Network was renamed Cookie Jar Kids Network in 2009 and ceased operations in 2011. Cookie Jar also produced the final season of Sushi Pack, one of Deke's last shows, which aired until 2009. Quillopolis on CBS was renamed Cookie Jar TV in 2009 and closed down in 2013, replaced by CBS Dream Team. Cookie Jar Tunes, a block on This TV, featuring shows from Cookie Jar and Deke, ran from 2008 to 2013. In 2014, Cookie Jar ceased operations. We'll take a quick peek at some of the programming blocks that Deke was involved with, and they were involved in a number of different programming blocks throughout their history. So Deke operated many programming blocks for various television stations across the United States. Kiddio TV was an anthology series that was produced as a joint venture between Deke Enterprises and their U.S. syndicator LBS Communications, with Mattel handling sponsorships. The block aired on syndicated television stations, with Metro Media stations agreeing to carry the block by January 1986, and launched in April of the same year. Kiddio TV aired for 90 minutes and consisted of live-action material and 3 cartoons from Deke's library used as framing material. Rainbow Bright, Popples, and Ulysses 31 first aired on the block, while the Get Along Gang, which was originally CBS, was on CBS for a while there, and Lady Lovely Locks were added later on. The Kiddio brand was also used by LBS as a joint venture home video line, which released various Deke cartoons on VHS. Weekend Fun Day was a 90-minute weekend strand produced by Deke that was syndicated through Coca-Cola Telecommunications during the fall of 1987. Weekend Fun Day normally ran on Sundays under the name Fun Day Sunday. So, right. As we said, in the 80s and 90s, you'd have the syndicated cartoon blocks happening as well. But it would also run on Saturdays as Fantastic Saturday. If it wanted to go head to head with the other Kid Vid blocks, it consisted of various half-hour cartoons from the DiC lineup, including Sylvanian Families and Starcom, the U.S. Space Force. Sylvanian Families, a part of my Sylvanian Families. I kind of do remember that one a little bit. That was basically a cute little show that was basically a village of anthropomorphic animals that just lived in a village together. You know, you had raccoons, you had all kinds of like forest creatures and all that. But anyways, moving on to the next paragraph. Funtown was a daily children's programming block on the CBN family channel, so CBN Christian Broadcasting Network, I believe. That launched on September 11th, 1989. It ran for 26 hours a week, broadcasting from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. weekdays. So let's see, that's 10 hours right there. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on weekends. So let's see. So 10, 6, 16. 16 and 4 is 20 on weekends. So that was 20, not 26. Let's see. Let me just make sure I'm right there. So weekdays at 5 times 2 is 10. And let's see. 3 and 3 is 10 and 6 is 16. 16 and 4 is 20. Yeah. So actually it ran for 20 hours, not 26, but DiC handled the advertising sales of the block. CBN Family Channel handled the distribution and marketing. The lineup of shows was a mix of formats from live action animated hybrids to live action and programs ranging from original to off-network shows, whether produced by DiC or other companies. In addition, a companion club program was supposed to be developed. DiC also planned to produce 4 specials each quarter, with the launching of Funtown combined with the others, mostly holiday specials, for the fourth quarter of 1989, but nothing came out of these initial plans. Dragon Club, in Chinese Little Dragon Club, was a daily television strand operated and distributed through capital cities ABC. Through various syndicated television stations in China. It launched on September 19, 1994, broadcast various DiC and ABC programs in addition to third-party live action and local offerings. After the Disney purchase of Capital Cities ABC, the strand transitioned to airing Disney-produced content and continued to broadcast until the start of 2019. Panda Club, in Chinese, was a short-lived sister strand of Dragon Club that launched on October 2nd, 1994, and broadcast on a smaller selection of stations. Its programming was similar to that of Dragon Block and broadcast until 1999. Again, if you have any memories to share of some of these blocks, feel free to share those in the comment section. Sure, many of you grew up watching some of DiC stuff. I mentioned this, that I was going to be doing this on Rick's show earlier, Rick Piper's show earlier, and even Metal had pointed out that he loved DiC, he liked DiC, so. So getting back to the article here, then Freddy's Firehouse, FFH, was a planned children's educational programming block that would broadcast various programs from Deke Entertainment's library. Initially announced in May 1998 in the United States, it was planned to air on PAX TV after Deke signed a deal with the broadcaster to become the exclusive supplier of animated programming on the network. The plan was for the block to run on weekends, running for 3 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. Buena Vista International Television handled syndication sales and would also allow for the strand to be sold to outlets internationally. The block was rejected in favor of PAX producing the children's block in-house with Cloud9, later renamed PAX Kids, launching with PAX TV on August 31st, 1998, and broadcasting until the end of the contract with Deke in 2000. National and syndicated broadcast blocks include Deke Kids Network, a set of 3 syndicated children's programming EI blocks launched on September 1st, 2003. Cole's Secret Slumber Party, a 3-hour long block launched on September 16, 2006, a programming block with partner Cole, AOL's Kids Online. Quillopolis, launched on September 15th, 2007, a programming block with partner American Greetings. Now, we'll take a quick peek at, of course, some of the programs that Deke was involved in. Probably focus more on the American stuff because, their French, I don't think anybody would have seen their French stuff, I don't believe. But in 1990, Deke signed an international distribution deal with the Italian studio Silvio Berlusconi Communications, covering 5 or 6 series. 1060 reclaimed the international distribution rights. The 20 of the series from Walt Disney, the successor of Interest Creativite et Development. There you have some of the. So when we get to Deke Enterprises in the 80s, here, of course, you had Inspector Gadget in syndication with LBS Communication, Nelvana, helping out with season 1. Field also doing season 1. The Littles, which aired on ABC. Wolf Rock TV. Wolf Rock TV. Oh! Kid Video from Saban Productions. Pole Position. Everyone is watching. Part of the CBS Saturday morning block there. Rainbow Bright, syndicated, through Hallmark, with Hallmark cards and LDS. Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats, another syndicated special with, of course, Mel Blanc providing the voice of Heathcliff in that series. The Cadillac Cats were, of course, Hector, Wordsworth, and Mongo. Hector was the skinny brown cat. Mungo was the kind of fat cat, and then Wordsworth was the cat on skates with the headphones. They also had Riff Raff. They in Heathcliff and Cadillac Cats. The Cadillac Cats. Part of the reason they, I guess, were called the Cadillac Cats is because they had this Cadillac that actually transformed into like 3 different things. Transformed into like a living quarters, like a little cabin. Then transferred into kind of a car that was still able to somewhat run, even though the hood was off a lot of the times. Didn't look like it had any wheels, but yet it still ran on the road nonetheless. And then also converted into a hydrofoil as well. Had the Care Bear syndicated show, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling on CBS, in which, of course, World Wrestling Federation co-produced. Mobile Armored Strike Command, Mask, I'm sure many of you. That's one I remember pretty fondly. That was the one where you had the guys going around and like suits and masks. Spectrum on, lifter on. You had the vehicles that would basically transform into other variations of vehicles. Like you had the one Jeep that would launch a boat out of it. You had the Thunderbird that would transition into a gull-wing fighter jet. Popple, the real Ghostbusters, um, and the Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin. Now that one doesn't really get talked a whole lot about anymore. It's been years since that one was co-produced with Atkinson Film Art. I remember around that time, 86, 87, 88, right there, Teddy Ruxpin had become a pretty popular there. They'd have little tape, you'd put the tape in the back of the Teddy Ruxpin bear, and they would they'd tell you a story, what have you. Then Deke Animation City would start stuff in 86. Kissy Fur, which was produced, season 1 was produced by Deke Audiovisual for the NBC Saturday morning Saban Entertainment, Saban Productions. Dennis the Menace in syndication with, of course, now Dennis the Menace, of course, starred the voice of Brennan Thicke, who previously had played the voice of Scott Turner on the Mask series a year before. Let's see, Lady Lovely Locks is part of the Kidio TV Beverly Hills Teens. Alfie animated series. So you had some of the more licensed series as well here. Dino Saucers. Da 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 da. Let's see, the new Archies. Sylvanian families. A part of my Sylvanian family. Okay. What's Michael? Let's see. The New Adventures of Beanie and Cecil with Bob Clampett Productions. Cops. Alf Tales. So the last 3 seasons, 6 through 8, of the Chipmunks were co-produced by Deke with Bagdasarian Productions. The first 5 seasons, of course, were aired on NBC, and then, all seasons were. You had Ring Raiders, you had Karate Kid, Camp Candy, NBC in syndication with Saban, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which you had also Eggplant, and you had The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo was starting to get into Captain N and the Game Master. The 1989 G.I. Joe series, which is now, of course, co-produced by Classic TV. They were Maxie's World, The Wizard of Oz. Let's see, season 1 through 3 were co-produced for Turner TBS there. New Kids on the Block, Swamp Thing on Fox. Look at all these different Hammerman that were done by Deke. Super Mario, some of the Where's Waldo, CBS and ITV. Wish Kid, Pro Star starred, of course, I believe Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky, and Michael Jordan as cartoon characters. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Super Dave, Daredevil for Hire, Stunt Dogs, all new Dennis the Menace, and then Deke Entertainment, Deke Productions, running in 1993, Sonic the Hedgehog, Madeline, which you can still see now and again nowadays. You can still see reruns of that. Hurricanes, I remember the Hurricane. That was a soccer-based cartoon. Double Dragon, Street Sharks. This is a lot of this stuff in syndication was coming out on the Amazing Adventures. This is coming out on some of the Sunday blocks, as it were. Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? Amazing Adventures 2 with Ultra Force, Action Man, Gadget Boy and Heather. What a Mess. The Sailor Moon dub, the one that we talked about earlier. Inspector Gadget's Field Trip. and Gadget Boy's Adventures in History as placed on the History Channel. Mummy's Alive, The Wacky World of Tex Avery, which you can now see on MeTV Tunes on late Sunday nights, early Sunday mornings. Extreme Dinosaurs. Basically, you see all that there. As we are running a little long on time here, so I should probably get ready to move on here. Wow, we're already past the hour mark. Now, granted, I did want to go beyond the hour mark, but not too far beyond the hour mark. So I'll wrap things up with the article here. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the information. You got some, maybe you'll get inspired to go out and watch some Deke stuff. But now we're going to go ahead and real quickly try to start wrapping things up here. We're going to run through the pro wrestling wrap up, look back to last night's AEW Dynamite, look ahead to tonight's Impact and Ring of Honor shows, and then wrap things up with this day in each history. So we're going to get right to it then. So on last night's Dynamite, coming from the San Jose Civic in San Jose, California, with of course, Tony Schiavone, Bryan Danielson, and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. Opening match saw the Death Riders duo of Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley defeat the Don Callis family duo of Hechicero and Konosuke Takeshita. Of course, Don Callis was on commentary for that match with Marina Shafir in the corner of the Death Riders. Kyle Fletcher successfully retained the TNT title over Speedball Mike Bailey. Brody King squashed Gia Jewel in 15 seconds. The Dogs duo of David Finlay and Gabe Kidd defeated Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy in 12 minutes flat, which I believe led to them signing a match between the Dogs of Clark Connors, David Finlay, and Gabe Kidd taking on Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong. Willow Nightingale successfully defended the TBS title against Persephone. And a six-man tag match, AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, teaming with Tommaso Ciampa and having Stokely in their corner, defeated the team of Mark Briscoe and the Young Bucks, Mark Nick Jackson. So that was last night. So let's look ahead to what's going to be going down on tonight's Impact and Ring of Honor. So on tonight's Impact, coming from the Gateway Center Arena at College Park in College Park, Georgia, with Tom Hannafan and Matthew Rainwall on commentary. TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys, Jeff and Matt Hardy, will be taking on Sinner and Saint in a non-title match of Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. Indy Hartwell takes on Kelsey Heather in a singles match. In a six-man tag match, you have International Champion Trey Miguel teaming with BDE and Rich Swann to take on the Order of 4 trio of Mustafa Ali and the great hands of Jason Hotch and John Schuyler, with Secret Agent Zero and Tasha Steelz in their corner. Elijah is set to take on AJ Francis in an Atlanta street fight. Cedric Alexander will be taking on Moose. And in the final match of the evening, Brad Attitude will be taking on Ricky Sosa. So that's all going down on tonight's Impact. Now to look ahead to tonight's Ring of Honor show as well. And on tonight's Ring of Honor show, coming from the WJCT studios in Jacksonville, Florida, with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. In a proving ground match, Athena tries to fend off the challenge of Maya World, in which if Maya can either last the time limit or, even better yet, defeat Athena in this match, she'll earn a shot at the Ring of Honor Women's World title. Scorpio Sky is set to take on Brian Keith in a Ring of Honor World Six-Man tag title match. The team of Nick Camarado, QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo take on Shane Taylor Productions. And of course, the team of Camarado, Marshall, and Solo should happen to either survive the time limit or last time limit or win the match, they'll earn a shot at the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Titles. Red Velvet defends the Ring of Honor Women's World Television title against Yan. And Lee Moriarty will be defending the Pure title against Josh Woods. Now, I don't know if this simply means that Josh Woods is no longer associated with the Premier Athletes or not, as it seems like he's been coming out on his own more of late from what little I've seen. So I guess we'll just have to wait. So that's all that I got for the wrestling wrap up tonight. So we went through it pretty quickly there. So now what we're going to do is, with today being Thursday, March the 12th, 2026, let's go ahead and get ready to take a look back at this day in each history. So 1997, 2016, 1966, and 2011. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 60 years ago. And on this date, 60 years ago today, back in 1966, the DePatie Frayling produced, Warner Brothers distributed theatrical animated short Clippity Clobbered, premiered in theaters on this date back in 1966. Clippity Clobbered is a 1966 Warner Brothers Looney Tunes theatrical animated short directed by Rudy LaRiva. The short was released on March 12, 1966 and starred Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. In this film, Wile experiments with a chemistry set. All right, so there we go, that one. Now moving ahead to the year 1997, which is 29 years ago today. As soon as I pull that up. On this date in 1997, as soon as I pull that up, of course, the 25th issue of Animaniacs from DC Comics went on sale on this date back in 1997. It sold for $1.75. 32 pages, included, of course, the Animaniacs story Silver Jubilee, as well as Driving Miss Salpy and a taxing situation. So 29 years ago today, the 25th issue of Animaniacs went on sale on this date back in the year 1997. Then, getting ready to move on now, moving on to the year 2011, as I recall. On this date in the year 2011, Aijato, so the Aijato anime film Gekicho Ban Anime Nintama Rantaro Ninjutsu Gakuen Zenin Shutsudo no Dan premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2011, 15 years ago. It's part of the Nintama Rantaro franchise. So, and finally, as we move on, final piece in each history, we move ahead to the year 2016, 10 years ago today. On this date, 10 years ago today. All right, on this date, 10 years ago today, WWE held its Roadblock pay-per-view on this date in 2016, 10 years ago, from the Ricoh Coliseum in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It was the first roadblock event. The show saw, of course, in the main event, Triple H retained the WWE World Heavyweight title over Dean Ambrose. Also, Brock Lesnar defeat two members of the Wyatt family in a 2-on-1 handicap match of Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper. Charlotte retained the WWE Divas Championship over Natalya in a battle of second-generation stars. The revival of Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, known as FTR and AEW, retained the NXT Tag Team Championships over Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore. Colin Cassidy, known as Big Bill in AEW. The New Day, Big E and Kofi Kingston, retained the WWE Tag Team Championships over the League of Nations duo of King Barrett and Sheamus in the opening match of the pay-per-view. So that's all I got for you tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back with more Niche News tomorrow. We'll be focusing in, of course, on Me TV Tunes. We'll probably be bringing some cartoon news, some classic cartoon stuff tomorrow. Does seem like we've been hitting a lot of that stuff up a lot lately, doesn't it? We'll be looking at some of that, getting all caught up on all the latest in pro wrestling, and then of course, don't forget this Sunday I'll be joined by Rick Piper from Cross Comic. We're taking a look back at comics that went on sale in August of 1940. So with all that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.